Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times. And in today's episode, I'm talking about stimulation. This is actually a super duper important topic for you to understand how to regulate your stimuli, because you're going to end up like everybody else. Like most people are overstimulated, like way overstimulated. Like our senses are just being bombarded constantly by our phones, televisions in restaurants, televisions in buses and trains and everywhere. Just the never-ending stimulation that's coming to us from all sides. And the result is that we're anxious and depressed because we're overworking our senses. We're overstimulated. And we want to run away. And how do we run away? Porn, masturbation, doing regrettable things that stimulate us even further and push us over the edge. So this is unpacking what is stimulation, how to regulate your stimulation, and I offer some examples of what to do at the end of how you can calm yourself down and regulate your stimulation. And it's not as hard as you might think. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you enjoy your life. That's our goal here, is that you create a life that you don't want to run away from. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm here in a chair. I don't have my green mineral water today, but it's still going to be a great episode. I wanted to talk about stimulation, okay? And don't worry, it's not going to get perverse or graphic. I just mean stimulation in general. So chill, right? This is a realization I had. If you listen to a couple episodes ago when I was in the countryside here in Mongolia, it was like there's a lot of things that bubbled up when I was out there because I was largely alone. My phone was off and everybody else was distracted. So I was just like in a position where I had nothing to prevent my emotions and my thoughts to be like right in front of me. And, I talked about that in great detail in that podcast if you want to listen to it. But more specifically, like living this kind of duality between countryside and city life, I really look at what it is that is going on in the city that's causing us to be so sick. And so much of it's a stimulation overwhelm. It's like we're starved and then we're overly full. There's too much stimulation. And I just wanted to unpack this phenomenon because it impacts us all. We live in a world of hyperstimulation where you cannot go into a restaurant without there being a TV at this point, right? There's just screens everywhere. And if you're lucky enough to find that one cute little restaurant with no TV, and let's say you're eating by yourself, you'll probably take out your phone. I see our family went out on a date. It's very cute. We went to this very fancy restaurant on the 25th floor of this building because I wanted my kids to see that, the cars below look like toy cars. And when we were walking to our table, I saw a couple sitting there on a date, both staring at their phones. If I could just take a picture and then show it to them, not out of judgment, but just to let them like see what they look like. They're both like, you don't know what you look like when you're on a phone. If you're watching the video, it's pretty gross. But you can imagine like mouth agape, your tongue slightly out. You look like you're being zapped by some taser or something like that. That's what we look like a lot of times when we're staring at our phone. Terrible posture, right? And it's just like, oh my God. Later I saw them talking, so it was okay. But for sure, it was weird. It's a weird phenomenon that would have been unheard of 15, 20 years ago, that you would be on a date and be ignoring each other and staring at your phone. Now, commonplace. Why? Hyperstimulation. So we are in a world where we cannot be without some sort of stimulus for for like an hour before we start getting a little squirrely, before we start like tweaking a little bit and something's off. I need something. I need sugar, or I need, my phone or something, right? Because otherwise you just feel unnatural, because our natural state now is being agitated. Actually, what happens when you're overstimulated? What happens? Let me ask you, when you stare at your phone, and let's say you go to social media for an hour, you're scrolling for an hour. What is the state? How do you describe that state after? It's not more zen. It's not more peaceful. It's not more reflective and wise. Like, yeah, I get it now. I get it. It's not none of those things. It's, you feel like you need to buy some sort of shoes now all of a sudden. You wish you had more money if it's Instagram. You wish you had more followers, more. And your mind is racing. Your heart is confused. You're just in a state of agitation and overwhelm. Because we're not meant to do that, to like just be ADD with social media, with all these visual stimuli. And the way that social media is adapting, because I watch this stuff a lot, I really observe these trends, is social media, the jump cuts, the sound effects, the high production value of a 60-second clip, and you're watching many of these. It's just so many inputs, like sounds, visuals, information, that you can't possibly process it all. When you go to the buffet, let's say you're the average person who goes to the buffet, just gorges themselves, because it's nearly impossible to eat exactly enough food at a buffet. You always eat at least 10, if not 50% more than you should. And when you do that to your body, you always end up with some sort of a bellyache, and you get tired, you get brain fog, because your body, you don't know it, but your body is like sending out signals like, we're dying, mayday, help. And this is because you've just bludgeoned your senses, especially your gut, your intestines, all, like the processing factory that is our body is so overwhelmed that the result is it starts to shut down, because it's just like the machine's running too fast. Same thing with our minds after social media, is overstimulation. This is not only commonplace, this is actually becoming our natural state of being, is overstimulated to the point where you cannot just sit and do nothing without feeling guilty or wanting to reach for your phone. It's really kind of shocking. And so I wanted to just paint this picture, because the opposite end of this is, I don't know if you've seen these videos, but if you can, again, I'm kind of like cautioning you against watching too much social media while simultaneously prescribing you to watch a video. But there's a few videos of people who go to these sensory deprivation retreats where they don't see sunlight. They hang out basically in the dark in like a cave or a box or something. There's different configurations for days. And people do it for like a week. They still eat. I guess they, go to the bathroom and stuff, but it's completely in the dark, in pitch black. And I think most of us have never experienced pitch black, especially if you live in the city or the suburbs. Pitch black is the absence of any visual stimuli. And it's hard to get in anywhere, because there's always some sort of light, unnatural light or whatever. And when these people come out of these sensory deprivation retreats and they open their eyes for the first time, they all start to they get absolutely overwhelmed by how beautiful the light is, how I don't know, rewarding it is to see with your eyes. And it's like not just the, grand opening of your eyes, this kind of revelation, but it's also just how much life sucks when you have no stimulation, right? And how much stimulation we actually take for granted, to the point where we gorge ourselves. Because going back to the buffet metaphor, it's not like we metaphysically or like, I don't know, spiritually, visually go to the buffet once in a while. It's like all day we're hyperstimulated. Most of us work on computers and we don't just focus on one thing at a time. We have multiple tabs open. Is this resonating? Is this holding true? So we all basically work on computers, whether you're a student, whether you're an employee. And then on top of that, we're checking our phones. And then on top of that, we're eating unnatural sugars or, chemicals that stimulate our body, right? Any like manufactured food is there to stimulate us in very unnatural ways, mixing sugars and salts and also like potato chips, all this stuff, right? So we're stimulating our senses, constantly overstimulating. It's like being in a visceral buffet, in an eye buffet and a sensory buffet all day. And then we wonder why we have sleeping problems and anxiety and all these issues, right? So being deprived of our senses is a real, hindrance and handicap to a joyful life.
Hey, if you happen to be a single person that wants to prepare well for marriage, for the matching, for the blessing, then my friend, we actually have a program just for you. It's completely free. You can join the core program at highnoon.org. We're going to take you through the stages to figure out what does it mean to be a marriageable person? What does it mean to be ready? How do you actually prepare for marriage and the blessing? Check it out at highnoon.org. Join us in the program called Core. All right, see you there.
But also we are always overstimulated. So like fasting, let's just say, go back to the food analogy, fasting for 7 days. I've done it. Many of you have done it. It's kind of, part of the blessing, a part of like preparing for another person is sacrificing yourself. It's symbolic. And I had such a wonderful experience with my 7-day fast. And the first thing that I ate, I was advised, don't eat food, because I had done that before. I actually did a 5-day fast when I was like in my early 20s, just because. And the first thing I ate was a block of cheddar cheese. And I guess I was young and limber enough to where I didn't face the consequences. But when I did my 7-day fast, I was advised, don't have food, have soup. So I was like, yeah, I'll have soup. But I was living in 43rd Street. I was a missionary at that time, and I didn't have access to just any soup that I wanted. I was around a lot of Japanese people, so there's miso soup. And I went from just drinking water for 7 days, and I became an aficionado. Because when you deprive yourself of your senses, anything that resembles stimulation. So I would get many different types of bottled water, and I'd get bubbled if I wanted to, feel fancy, a little bubbly water. And I'd get certain brands taste differently. So that was great. But then the first thing I had was miso soup, which was basically like punching my tongue and nose in the face because it was so salty, and it's like an atomic bomb of taste. It was way too much, right? If we fast from all stimulation, then you can't live like that. It's not advisable, right? Just like you can't fast forever. By the way, I met a guy who said he knew a guy who fasted for 100 years or something like that. Don't think I believe that guy. He also said that guy could breathe through his eyes. There's some Indian guru, a Guruji. Anyway, this is totally an aside. But in terms of sensory deprivation, you can't live like that. Not in this world. Not if you want to get anything done. You can't just live in isolation, because eventually you'd want to have a spouse, and you'd want to go and have fun with your spouse and get stimulated with them by going, on dates and going to amusement parks and watching movies and living life, right? So we do want it, but we don't want to be hyper stimulated all the time, because it's like buffet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and with snacks in between buffet. And it's what's going to be the result? You're going to get sick, obviously. Physically, you'll get super sick. When I was in Vietnam, there's this place called Bana Hills, we went there a bunch of times. I loved it. It's like a German-French village in the Vietnamese mountains. It makes no sense. That's why I like it. And one time we went there, we had 4 buffets in 2 days, and it was disgusting. It was disgusting. I didn't want to look at food. I was like, I'm never going to eat food again. Obviously, I ate food the next day. But you get sick. Just imagine all you can eat buffet every day, all day, and you actually indulge. You're obviously going to get way overweight. Your blood sugar is going to go crazy. You'll get all sorts of diseases and sicknesses, right? But that's what's happening to our spirit. Because we're overindulging in stimulation, it puts us off kilter. It puts us in a place where we're super anxious, where we have depression. Like if you look at the anxiety of this Gen Z generation, it's off the charts. Anxiety, depression, all the negative things are in some weird state that, people can't figure out until they actually stop and think about it. Of course, we're so overstimulated. All of our brains are running way too fast, too much caffeine, too many processed foods, too much, processed media, too much of everything that stimulates us. And this is where I want to go with this, okay? And I'm almost done. This is going to be a shorter episode. What I realized is the beauty of stillness amongst a chaotic world, and how that, these people are all having these revelations about how impactful meditation is. This over the past 10 years, you have all these tech gurus, these high-end billionaires who are like, oh, did you hear about this new thing? It's called meditation, right? And it's like, oh, that thing's been around for thousands of years. The reason why it's so helpful is because the sacred act of not being stimulated. Even prayer, to be honest, I love prayer, and we all need prayer. That's like plugging your heart into heaven to get the real, unfiltered, raw, organic love of Heavenly Parent. Super needed. It's a conversation, but it's very stimulating. I stopped being able to have deep prayers at night. I do my deep prayers in the morning, throughout the day, different parts, but I can't do deep prayers at night anymore. I realized this back in 2018, something like that. Because I was overstimulated at night. I'd end up having these tearful prayers, and then I'd be worried about the state of the world and, poor people or just, whatever, wars. And that was creating anxiety, more anxiety in me. So I was like, oh, I can't stimulate my heart too much at night. But meditation became my anchor for peace, especially in the evenings, because, again, it's your participation in the sacred act of stillness in a chaotic world where everything is spinning so fast, ever more the case. We are only getting faster and faster. It's dizzying, it's spellbinding, and it makes your eyes crossed. This week, I've been working so hard at creating AI agents together with some guy for High Noon. We're going to be adopting a lot of stuff. It's exciting, and it's going to replace a lot of our busy work here in High Noon, like our staff, so that we can focus more on people, less on machines. Let the machines take care of the machines, let the people take care of the people. Because when I go in, I got to do all this technical stuff. It's so overstimulating. My sleep has been terrible this week because my brain is racing way too fast. Because when I go into the matrix and I'm in there and then to pull myself out, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. My brain is way too overstimulated. So I'm giving myself a few weeks to work really hard on this, and then I really have to pull myself out much more permanently, because I can see the wear on even working too hard or obsessing over stuff is a form of overstimulation. Okay, to summarize, I really want to caution against the normalization of hyperstimulation, which is already the norm. We're already all overstimulated, period. Unless you're in a country where you're fortunate enough to not to have good Wi-Fi yet. But that's coming for everybody. Everybody's going to have really good Wi-Fi soon enough. But for the rest of us who do have Wi-Fi, and the fact that you're listening to a podcast is kind of a telltale sign that you likely have really good Wi-Fi. We are all overstimulated. And the answer isn't to live in the forest, away from everything permanently. That's not the answer. That's a fake sense of peace, because eventually the world's going to come to you, right? Even we live in the countryside and our neighbor has Starlink, right? So it's there. There's Wi-Fi everywhere, really. We're talking about deep in the countryside in Mongolia. So it's not a viable plan to want to live in the past. The past is the past. But in order to survive the future, everybody, you are going to have to find a way to claim calm throughout the day and unplug from this hyperstimulation to regulate yourself, regulate your thinking and your emotions. And that's the only way to avoid porn, masturbation, these things that are the result of being overstimulated. That's the crazy part, is that when we are overstimulated, we think that more stimulation is the answer, right? Like you have a stressful day from working on the computer, so you end up watching stuff on YouTube, and that leads you to porn. And like, what's that? That's just more stimulation. That's why you feel even worse and worse and worse. So the answer is balancing your mind and your heart, your spirit, by finding ways to keep calm and to slow yourself down so that you're not racing. Everybody's racing now with AI for the next thing, but we don't even know where this is taking us. We're racing to a destination that nobody's decided on just yet. In order for you to survive, because we're getting like Mark Zuckerberg, these kind of people are really promoting AR a lot, like augmented reality, where you wear the glasses. So you're always going to be stimulated in that case. If we do adopt that, that's going to be instead of a phone. And so we're not looking at our phones, which is a good thing, but instead everything will be connected to the web. That's going to be Wi-Fi. Like, how do you think those things work? So you're always going to be plugged in. So you'll always be stimulated. And when you're talking to somebody and they're wearing these glasses, they could be watching football highlights or cat videos or something, and you would never know. And do you think that people are going to do that? Give me a break. Have you been on a Zoom meeting and you can clearly see that somebody else has something else that they're working on instead of the conversation you're having with them? Of course you have, because we're doing it more and more. Why? Because we can't sit in a meeting without being stimulated by something else now. You have to fight just to be there in that meeting, okay? This is the state that we're in. So if you want to be countercultural and you want to live the high noon life, you have to figure out how overstimulated you are, meaning are you tweaking? Because I think a lot of people are really on the cusp of tweaking, meaning freaking out and so stressed out, so anxious, losing control of your thoughts and your feelings. If that's you, or if you're less than that and you're just a little bit anxious or whatever, we're still way too overstimulated. Then the countermeasure is to work in peaceful things throughout your day. Here are the action steps. Peaceful things include walking in nature if you can, without headphones, any external forms of stimulation from technology. If it's stimulation, it's from the breeze, it's from, the birds singing, natural forms of stimulation, very different than the fake stuff. It's also meditating, to be honest, okay? Sitting, and there's a billion different forms of meditation, from thinking about something to trying to focus on one thing, to trying to just observe your thoughts and let them go. There's many different modalities. Find your way. Start experimenting. There's, drawing or playing music is a form of stimulation, but slower paced. My middle son is now 9, and he's taking these art lessons where he's just been focusing on, he spent an hour just drawing an eye with his teacher. And I thanked his teacher so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Why? Because he's able to draw an eye for 1 hour. And that takes such great focus. And that focus is now like our superpower. Can you focus on one thing, a small thing, details for 1 hour, without opening an app or without listening to music, or just focus on one thing? This is becoming like an antiquated part of our life. It's outdated to just do one thing. We got to do a million things at once. Art, music helps us to do one thing and just focus and concentrate our energy on one thing, which is a very beautiful thing. So things like that, right? That are, you unplug from technology. You unplug from the matrix, which is like overused a billion times over, but the machine that runs our life, the electricity, the Wi-Fi, all this stuff, and go experience calmness in some way so that you can become an integrated person again. This is how I'm going to end this episode, is that we are not integrated when our minds are racing in one direction, our hearts are racing in another direction, our spirits are just cowering. They're in the fetal position being like, what have you done to me, right? And our bodies just feel agitated. This is when we're disjointed and when we're overwhelmed. It's a terrible state, and we're in it more than we're not. To be an integrated person is to bring your mind, your heart, your spirit, your body back into one place through the act of doing something simple, really simple and really focused. And the more that you do that, the less agitated and anxious you'll be, and the more powerful and loving you'll be, and your heart can resonate and receive signals much more clearly from Heavenly Parent, from Spirit World, from your brain will think more clearly. You'll be more yourself. And at High Noon, that's our goal, is to help you to create a life that you don't want to run away from. So just know this, that the reason why everybody watches porn in the first place is because of agitation. It's either spiritual agitation. A lot of times it's emotional agitation because you're getting irritated by a person or by yourself and you don't know what to do with this discomfort, this agitation. Or mental agitation. Your mind's just racing around and you just want to calm it down, so you watch porn, right? So the calm life and being stimulated enough is the goal. And in order to balance out your stimuli, you need to scale back how much you're plugged in and do calm, focused things enough to regulate your mind, your heart, your body, and spirit, and integrate yourself again. And that is the ticket to being in a state of joy, resonating with good emotions, all the stuff that we want. Okay? I hope this was helpful. I know it was a bit of a rant, and I realized just at the very last second I meant to wear a hat because this is something else. My hair is agitated. But anyway, I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you around, huh? I hope if you guys have any questions, just always let us know.